procedure contest for Wisconsin FFA. To understand these well, you're going to need to read the National FFA rules as well. So on my left I have the summary of National FFA rules, and on my right I have the Parliamentary Procedure Contest for Wisconsin. In Wisconsin rules, it says the National FFA rules will be used in most cases for the state of Wisconsin FFA Parliamentary Procedure Contest, which is why we are using the National FFA rules as well. This is a summary of the National FFA rules that you can find on the FFA website under Parliamentary Procedure CDE Handbook. So with that, we're just going to start right into it. So opening and closing a meeting. The team shall assume that a regular chapter meeting is in progress and new business is being handled on the agenda. The chair shall start the presentation by saying, "Is there any new business?" So we can look at rule number 2 on Wisconsin's rules over here. The team demonstrating shall assume that a regular chapter meeting is in progress and new business is being handled on the agenda. The chair shall start the presentation by saying, "Is there any new business?" A team may tap the gavel first to signify that an item of business just finished, and then say, "Is there any new business?" So they can either tap the gavel or they don't have to, but by saying the words, "Is there any new business?" the meeting will be started, or the presentation demonstration will be started. And that's when time will start as well. And then time will stop when the chair declares the meeting adjourned. So over here, repeats that again. So this means if there are no items of business left, the chair can simply say, "Seeing that there is no further business, this meeting stands adjourned," and then tap the gavel. Or a team may formally adjourn the meeting and use it as an extra motion for one of its members. Either way is fine. So what that's saying is they can either say, "Seeing that there is no further business, this means stands adjourned," and then tap the gavel, or the team may also adjourn formally and use as their extra motion. So in this contest, each member has to have one assigned motion and then one additional motion. And if somebody were to formally adjourn the meeting, it can be used as one of their additional motions. So back over to the summary of National FFA rules here. It's talking about the original main motion. So the event official will assign the main motion on an index card. No other original main motions may be used, so they have to use the motion that's on the index card, and you'll get those when you arrive at the contest to judge. That will be in a packet, and you'll lay those out on their chairs, but they are not allowed to use other main motions. Making other main motions that are not on the event card will result in a 50-point deduction from the overall team presentation score. So we'll look at number 10 here. The national rules say that you cannot use reconsider, rescind, or take from the table as one of the extra motions. You call these bring back motions, and they are only used if it's one of the required motions. So the signed original main motion is the first item of business presented unless take from the table, reconsider, or rescind are required on the event card. Otherwise, they cannot be used as additional motions. The person who makes the assigned main motion will get credit for an additional motion. So the maker of the motion that main motion will be used as one of their additional motions. So back to this part here. So take from the table, rescind, and reconsider can only be used if they're assigned. Otherwise, they cannot be used at all. And they'll be assigned on the event card with a scenario if that were to happen. So secondary motions, there's no limit of the number of subsidiary, incidental, or privileged motions that a member or team may demonstrate. A member's required motion will not be counted as an additional motion for another member. So if one person were to do recess, and that was their required motion, and then another member, as their additional motion, wanted to do recess, they can't do that. They have to demonstrate 10 separate motions throughout the demonstration. And then no motion may count for an additional motion for another member. So each member has to do one required and one additional motion. There can't be one member that does two additional motions and one required motion, so that it would count for another member. That's not allowed. Each person has to do two separate of their own motions. And then only motions listed on the permissible motions chart will be counted for required and additional motions. So there is a new chart with all the motions and the requirements on the National FFA Handbook for Parliamentary Procedure. That one is going to be used instead of what we used to use and what we used to call the green sheet, which had a lot more motions on it. In the contest, they can only use motions from this chart, so make sure that when you're judging, that they only use for their additional motions that come from this chart. Otherwise, they can't be counted. With that, one of the other things that they changed was no salient points are needed to be announced during the presentation. So, team must just show the proper techniques during demonstration and show they know how it all works. The team will not receive extra points if they announce them. So they're not scored if they say them, but it might be helpful for their team to know what's going on by saying them. Individual member recognition. A member may speak in debate on the main motion and include by offering a secondary motion. Judges will award points accordingly for both the debate and the secondary motion. So what that means is a member can be debating and then conclude by offering another motion. So they can be debating, then they want to refer to a committee, so they can say that in their debate, and the chair can use that as a moving a motion, and that can be scored, and that needs to be scored for both the debate and the motion. And then omission of the assigned motion by the assigned member on the event card will result in a 50-point deduction from the overall team presentation score. So if a member chooses not to do the assigned motion or just doesn't get it done, they will get a 50-point deduction in not presenting it. Motions that bring a question again before the assembly. So if the officials in charge designate take from the table, reconsider, or rescind as a motion to be demonstrated, a scenario will be included on the event card. These motions shall not be used unless listed on the event card as a required motion. So the only way that these ones can be done in contest is they have to be required, and then there will be a scenario. Otherwise, they cannot be used. Call for the orders of the day is kind of a messy one in Wisconsin because we don't all know how to do it the same way. But if it were to be done, this is how it would go. So if the event officially designates call for the orders of the day as a motion to be demonstrated, a scenario will be provided on the event card. Participants are to assume that a motion was postponed at the last meeting and made a special order for a time during that current demonstration. So I'm not going to get into that too much, but that is what the rules say in the contest. It is a motion that they can use, but it probably won't be one that is a required motion. It will most likely be used as an additional motion. Just make sure you know how call for orders a day works before you go out and judge. This is going to be on scoring debates, so the top 4 debates per member will be tabulated in the presentation score. That's shown here in rule number 5. So note that only the top 4 debates will be counted, and they must be legal according to Robert's Rules of Order. Example, you can only do 2 debates on refer or commit even if the limit or extend time for debates is used. So only 2 debates per motion. This also means that a team member may debate more than 4 times. Only the top 4 debates will be counted. So no more than 2 debates per member per motion will be tabulated even if the subsidiary motion to extend the limits of debate has been passed. So even if they extend the limits of debate to 3 debates per person, only 2 of them can be scored on the motion. And that's kind of how it works in the rubric as well. So that one's not too hard. Just make sure that if they're doing more than 4 debates that you're scoring them all, as long as they're on different motions. And then all debate should be scored at the time it's delivered. So as you're filling out your rubric, you have to be scoring at the time it's given. Otherwise, you'll forget or won't remember what they say, and it won't be as accurate as it should be. So, characteristics of an effective debate: 3 points for basic, beginning, middle, and end. 4 points for above average, beginning, middle, and end. So they give you a little bit more than just the average debate for 4 points, and then for 5 points, it's an excellent debate that's realistic and relevant to what we were talking about with a well thought out idea or ideas. Time limit and deductions. So a team shall be allowed 11 minutes in which to demonstrate knowledge of parliamentary law. A deduction of 2 points per second for every second over 11 minutes will be assessed. That's at the national level. At our state level, so district, sectional, state, it's 1 point for every second over 11 minutes. We can see that at rule number 9 here. So the national rule said there is a time not to exceed 11 minutes. And one of the other things that we have done for this contest is a running clock for time that is visible for all members is a preferred way of showing the teams what their time is. This can be done by a computer screen that is visible to all team members, and then you can just go to this website, and it has an awesome stopwatch. So please try to make that happen for the teams, that they have a stopwatch that they can see at all times, either on a computer screen or iPad or a smartboard or anything that can display a stopwatch. And then on the rubric, there's places where you need to score leadership, ability to preside, and their conclusion. So we decided to put some words to what that looks like so that you know how to score that well. So leadership states motions correctly, follows rules of debate, keeps members informed, puts motions to a vote, announces results of the vote, uses the gavel, and maintains awareness of business on the floor. And then leadership is stage presence, poise, self-confidence, politeness, and voice. So those are some terms that you can use to help you score that aspect of the contest. And then conclusion, it's worth 15 points. The main motion was well analyzed, which may include answering who, what, when, where, why, and how. The degree to which debate was convincing, logical, realistic, orderly, and efficient, germane, and free from repetition. And then this can also include voice, poise, expression, grammar, gestures, and professionalism. Conclusion is more of, did their debates make sense to the end result? So if they were all debating in favor of the motion, did it pass? So using the National FFA rules and with the Wisconsin Parliamentary Procedure Contest rules, you should be able to judge and know exactly what we're looking for in the demonstration. If you need more clarity, again, you can go to the National FFA Parliamentary Procedure CD Handbook,